February 13th, 1970, the day everything changed. The music world didn't know it yet, but something dark was coming. A storm rolled in, the sky cracked open, and out came a sound no one had ever heard before. Slow, heavy, ominous. It wasn't blues, it wasn't rock, it was something else entirely. A sound that felt like it was pulled from the depths. The day a new genre was born, and the ones who summoned it were Black Sabbath.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your boy Matt Diazable. You know what time it is. It's time to talk about music. And I think it's pretty good timing to talk about one of the most influential bands, records of all time, because probably without this bad boy, I wouldn't be here talking to you or, enjoying some of my favorite music, because this is ground zero for everything metal, alternative, death metal, hardcore. That simple riff at the beginning of their first song changed the course of heavy music forever. And we're talking about the self-titled album from Black Sabbath. And at the time of this recording, Black Sabbath had just played their final show ever with the four original members, Tony, Gerald, Bill, and Ozzy. And it got me thinking, I've never actually fully listened to their first album. I know a lot of their big hits. My dad is a big Black Sabbath fan. I enjoy Sabbath as well, like anyone else who's in the alternative and just metal band scene. And I thought, oh my God, I have never fully listened to this first debut album that, like I said, changed so many things. So I thought it'd be perfect timing with them just playing their final show as a four together and, do a deep dive and see if it is as influential as it should be. And with their final performance being done here in July 2025, their debut album still casts one of the longest, if not the longest, shadow over the heavy metal industry. 55 years after its release, Black Sabbath's debut album still remains a landmark in dark innovation. It didn't just start a genre, it foretold it. And with the book of Black Sabbath being finally closed with their final performance, their beginnings here feel even more monumental. Revisiting this record is now like returning to like an old ancient ritual site where something primal and powerful was first summoned. From the opening of Black Sabbath, the band really establishes a very eerie, apocalyptic sounding tone. We have the sound of rain, bells, and a single crawling riff that just creates a very haunting and desolate atmosphere. The music is slow and deliberate, with guitar work that feels more like an incantation than, a performance. Ozzy's vocals feel very mournful and massive on this track, floating over some like ritualistic drums and thunderous bass notes that are very simple, but they are impossibly heavy. It's a song that invokes like a new sound of, like a new kind of heaviness that, invokes fear, awe, and mysticism all at once. And that same fusion of, heaviness and groove carries out throughout this whole album. Then you have the song The Wizard that, blends Southern American blues swagger with like British doom. The intro starts off with like a harmonica playing that feels very unexpected, but very effective. It never really feels out of place. If anything, it's like merging very nicely with the raw guitar and dynamic drumming. Sabbath doesn't just, like copy the blues here. They transform it into something that's more darker, stranger, and very uniquely their own. Elsewhere on the album, like on the songs Behind the Wall of Sleep and Nib, the band kind of experiments with more space and movement. The former shows off Gizzard's vibrant sliding bass lines, while the latter kind of bursts out with some like a funky intro here and has one of the album's most iconic riffs. And I feel like Nib is where, the band's writing process really starts to sharpen here, blending like bleak lyricism with experimental tones with tight structures. It's a clear turning point on the album and probably arguably, Sabbath's most earliest and clearest indications of like them finding their identity. While Evil Woman doesn't carry the same weight as some of the other songs on here, it still benefits from the band's sense of rhythm and good sound production. It's a bluesy and punchy track with some tight musicianship, even if it doesn't reach, the otherly sounding sounds of the other songs on this album, it's still all right. It's just not as good as the other stuff here. And the band's more exploratory slash psychedelic side really emerges with the songs Sleeping Village and Warning. These songs feel very stretched out, and they often shift gears midway through the songs, so it feels like, very unorthodox for the time, I think. Sleeping Village starts off with a very eerie and minimalistic feel to it, but then it bursts into some like southern twang style riffing with gritty, scratchy textures. And, they really showcase Sabbath's willingness to go on the weird side of things. These songs feel very stretched out, and they often shift gears midway through the songs, so it feels like, very unorthodox for the time, I think. Warning is more of, like a slow burning jam that leans into blues, rock, and psychedelic sounds, but then it only morphs into some more like doom and like heavy riffs with some wild solos. It's like the band is flexing their musical muscles, showing their improbability, expressiveness, and surprisingly soulful feeling underneath some very gloomy sounds. And what really ties this album all together very nicely isn't just the sonic weight, it's the feeling. There's like this weird, eerie sense of dread that's just running throughout this whole record. And it's like the band is channeling it, and it's like something beyond themselves. Like, it's really hard to describe, but you can feel this eerie feeling throughout this whole record. Even in some of their rougher moments, there's still a sense of presence from the band. Something that, feels alive in all great forms of art, whether it be music, painting, sculptures, any art expressive feeling. This album feels alive. This debut album feels even more important than ever. And now that Black Sabbath has, finally played their last note and have officially put a close to their legacy, because it's not just the beginning of their story, it's the beginning of everything heavy. A single record that, conjured an entire genre out of smoke, rain, and the devil's triton. Black Sabbath remains one of the most haunting, revolutionary debut albums of all time. With a dark atmosphere, crushing riffs, and fearless experimentation, it forged the blueprint for pretty much everything in the heavy music landscape, and a lot of bands and a lot of music still follow it to today. So it's beyond impactful, this album. And so I got to give it up to them, Black Sabbath, for their debut album, for them closing out their legacy. Finally, me listening to this album, I gotta say, I definitely, one, for sure, missed out on this album all the way through. So much on here is so important and just so heavy and so interesting to listen to. And overall, I would give it a good and solid 8.5 out of 10. Links down below. Tell me what you think about this album. Any Black Sabbath stories. Were you at the last show? Down to hear anything. Love to chat. Until next time, guys. See you in the pit.